Jonathan.
Hello everybody. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina tonight, at the recording of this in a little Barnes & Noble that has a little Starbucks. And I am with a dear friend. I don't mean it patronizing in any way, because he is my superior in many ways, but closest to another son, it would be Jonathan Sawyer. How old were you when we first started working together? 24 years old. He knew everything back then. But I have a little saying that you're always one idea away or one relationship away from the next level. Well, Sawyer here is one of the reasons I came up with that. Jonathan, when you came into our lives there at Fort Mill, you were definitely a game changer. And I attribute a lot of the great things that happened when you came in. You were a special leader and a special friend, and it was great working with you. But, and Jonathan now is at the First Assembly, is it Fort Lauderdale?
Fort Myers.
Fort Myers.
Myers.
There with Dr. Dan Betzer, great Assembly of God pastor, great Assembly of God church. And so Jonathan's on staff there as their lead worship leader there. But Jonathan, you were not always in the mega churches and the large churches. You have we were looking at some of the videos today.
That's right.
Very great roots, salt of the earth, good
Absolutely.
people, great churches. Every church is not meant to be a mega church.
No, absolutely.
And so give us this is good for me. I think I focus so much on the pastors, but I need to remember the other team members. And
absolutely.
And, a pastor, if he can get a Jonathan Sawyer in his church, it may be part-time, it may be volunteer,
right,
but it can be a game changer. And so give a word. You know that we're there in the Dakotas and Montana, the great North Central region, and give a word to pastors maybe, but to the dedicated men and women that minister there at the local level, on how to, any word that if they don't have a big budget, maybe not even a paycheck.
Sure. No, well, first of all, it's relationships are so important, and that's why we're sitting at this table tonight, because it fostered a friendship. And so I think whether it's a full-time staff person or a volunteer, a pastor, if they are smart, and a music guy or gal, there needs to be a relationship there with the pastor, because every position is important, and I'm probably biased towards music, but music is so critical in a worship service that goes hand in hand with the word. So you have to work together closely, and it can't just be a platform relationship. There has to be relationship invested on the back end of that for it to work effectively, and we were able to foster that. I lived with you guys for a while. I think you get real close when you're watching television and eating breakfast and all those good things. But
and using a different towel every day.
That's a different video.
That's another story. Sanjo will need to be in on that.
But no, seriously, relationship is critical. But there are, when I first got started, and it wasn't that terribly long ago. I'm not terribly old, but it's been a while now.
Yes, it has.
There were not nearly the resources available online that are available today. You can find just about anything you need today at relatively inexpensive cost online today. And one of the things that I recommend doing is that there's a website called praisecharts.com that has a great accurate chart for just about any song. Praisecharts.com. And they're not free, but a lot of the charts that you'll download online for free are not accurate. They're not done well. For a really inexpensive cost, you can get something that an actual arranger has sat down and written the chords out. They have a lot of times now, the cool thing, I wish we had this, even, we started delving into this while I was at Fort Mill, but the tracks and loops and all those things that you can mix in, I go in now, even now with a conference or a special service sometimes, and it's just me at the keyboard, but because of technology that I can get inexpensively online, I can have bass, drums, a guitar, all the other things play with me, from digitally. And so, and maybe you don't have a band, maybe you don't have a worship team. With the things that are out there now, there's another website called Loop Community, and that's where people create these loops and tracks and things and sell them almost for nothing. And you know, if you figure out the technology and can mix that in your sound, you can have a full band there with just a keyboard or you know.
Is there a website for that?
Yeah, it's called loopcommunity.com, I think is what it's called. Yeah,
Loop or loop?
Loop, L-O-O-P. Yeah, like a music loop. And you know, I wish those things had been around when I first got started. I could have had a lot of instruments that I didn't have at the time. And you know, there's nothing wrong with using the technology that's at our fingertips.
You would have to hire musicians to come in for some of our
absolutely. You know, we hired horns and hired different things to come in from. You know, now I mean, you know, visually we still use hire in some players even at our church for big events and that kind of thing. But I can have strings at my fingertips. I can have horns or whatever I need. You know, and that doesn't work in every church, but you can have, you know, everything you listen to on the radio has loops in the background, and that makes it have that commercial sound that you can't really achieve with live instruments. You can get it with technology, you know. But that's just nuts and bolts kind of stuff. I think you know, I mentioned to you before, I think everybody needs a mentor in their life. You know, somebody that's pouring in, and you're still that for me. But musically, in Charlotte, when we lived here in Fort Mill, David Culberson at Central Church of God, which I guess is the largest Church of God congregation. You know, I've known David for years, but I made an intentional effort. I said, I want you to be a weekly part of my life. And we had lunch every week, and that was a pretty big investment on his part, so I don't know that everybody is going to find that kind of time investment, but find somebody that's doing what you want to do already, you know, or doing what you do bigger and better, and find out how they do it. And then, you know, the cool thing out of that relationship was David would share a lot of resources that at the time, you know, I couldn't have gotten my hands on otherwise. And so that, you know, and I try to be that for guys now, you know, and pay that forward, you know. So, but that's critical too, is finding, you know, even when I was at Fort Mill, I used to fly to Dallas every year and watch the Christmas show at Prestonwood to see something on a much bigger scale than what we would do. I couldn't do everything they did, but we could find a way to bring it to where we're at, you know. And what works in Dallas, Texas isn't going to work in Fort Mill, South Carolina always, and what worked at Fort Mill doesn't always work in Florida. But there are things that you can take and make it work where you're at.
That's great advice. Before we sign off, I guess maybe speaking to pastors for just a moment. I feel like, Jonathan, one of the, I'd rather be lucky than good. So maybe it's because I was lucky, but I am not. I don't even consider myself a musician really. But I do love music. I love playing music, and so I think that was an advantage that I had an idea of your world. Yeah. And pastors, if we're not careful, we solve every problem with a sermon, and we forget that. And we don't have any idea of the world of the musicians around us, and it's a whole different. It's a whole different dynamic. Musicians have to be handled different.
They
related to different,
and for sure.
But if they're part of the engine, you and I are just a part of the engine as well. And so when you put yourself into the world of the musicians, that oil, it makes the machine run a lot smoother.
Absolutely.
Do you think that? I think
no,
it
absolutely.
was an advantage for me that I knew your world.
Yes,
a little better.
And I think any successful music ministry, you can trace it back to a pastor that has prioritized music in the life and the DNA of that church. It just, I can get as passionate as I want to about music, and I'm very passionate about it. But I can't take it further than my senior pastor wants to allow it to go, or wants to believe in it to go, you know. And the reason we have a successful choir at First Assembly is because the choir is a priority of my pastor, you know. And it was the same way when we worked together at Fort Mill, you know. It is for sure. And I'll never forget, you know, musicians are different. We're different breeds, different animals, you know. And a lot of times you have to deal with the personalities that come along with that, and you know, you're going to deal with personalities when you're dealing with musicians and worship team members, and one of the things that Pastor Kemp, you taught me years ago, I was frustrated with some personalities I was dealing with, and you said, you know, what if you didn't have any of those personalities to deal with? You'd have to do it all by yourself. And I've never forgotten that, you know. Thank God there are people that want to sing, that want to use their gift, and we just have to find a way to to keep them all in their place in the boat, in the
And
bus.
stay safe.
That's right. Well, I have to try that myself.
Of course, I'm not sure that most ministers of music are saved, but anyway, no, I'm just kidding. Hey, North Central region, and to all my friends and church family, wherever this goes, Sonja and I love you, and we wish you a very blessed and happy new year. I'll be seeing you around the bend. God bless you.